Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Skipper Surf Review. We just got to King's Glassing and waiting for Shea Somma to get us into the shaping bay. The reason why we came here is because I ran into Shea at Fish Fry today and I saw him catching a lot of waves on the Mini Simmons, the original Mini Simmons. And we spoke about kind of ordering a custom board, and he's here for a week to shape away some boards, the custom boards, and ask him if he has time to maybe walk me through his process of ordering custom. And we agreed to actually shape me one Mini Simmons. Yeah, let's see how it goes. Very excited. Hey!
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah? Good to see you. I'm
It's
Shea.
my wife.
Zanda. Nice to meet you. Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
I think maybe we can go in this way. Here it is.
Wow, that's it.
Yeah.
Guys, we're here at the shaping bay with Shea Somma. He's a shaper and owner of Somma Special Designs.
Right? Yeah.
I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to do an interview with you and talk about ordering a custom board.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here.
So I know we spoke a little bit in the lineup about Mini Simmons, and I saw you like catching tons of waves like on the inside.
Yeah.
I actually really think that I need a Mini Simmons in my life.
Sure.
'Cause
Everybody does.
I had two, and I think I need one that will like be settled for the rest of my life. Maybe.
Okay.
We'll see. But
We'll try and do that then.
yeah, and could you please tell our listeners and my followers and all people out there about yourself, about how you start shaping, and more about your boards and your journey into shaping?
Yeah. So my background is I grew up going to the beach, loving being in the water and that kind of thing, surfing from a young age, and always was interested in shaping, but never had the opportunity to like get the tools or study under somebody or anything like that. And when I had graduated college in 2007, I got a job and finally had a little cash in my pocket. And in 2008, just bit the bullet and started buying blanks and started shaping just a couple at a time to begin. And probably first couple of years, I probably did like 3 boards a year or something like that. And then started making 1 or 2 for a friend and 1 or 2 for a couple more friends and that kind of thing. And just a little by little it started trickling up, and I became friends with Kyle Kennelly at Daydream Surf Shop. And when they opened their doors, they stocked some boards of mine, and that really opened me up to a new group of people. So I started getting more custom orders from outside of San Luis Obispo, where I live. And then a few years later, a friend of mine was surfing one of my boards up in San Francisco, and he ran into an old friend of his, Joseph Childress, at Mala's Surf Shop, and he hit me up to make a couple boards for them, and that opened me up a little bit more to another audience there, and that was huge for me. Super grateful for that. And then a couple years after that, I was able to quit my job and go for shaping full time, and it's been since 2019 that I've been doing that, and it's been going really good. I feel stoked and lucky to be able to do it. And last year was the first year traveling to shape. I came out to King's, made some boards for Pilgrim. Chris ordered some boards, and that was epic. A really cool opportunity. In Rhode Island Surf Supply, Wally at Rhode Island Surf Company, ordered some boards as well. And so I'm making more boards for Rhode Island this year, and Chris has some Sommas on the rack currently, and I added another shop, Stoke Ack, out in Nantucket Island, making them some boards this trip too. And it's been great. I feel lucky. I like these traveling gigs. It's a lot of fun to just put your head down and grind through a big batch all at once. It's a good excuse to travel and meet new people and make boards for people like yourself. It's great. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's it in kind of a real nutshell. But yeah, it's like I've always loved being in the ocean, and making ocean toys for other people is just a real joy. It's like you're making toys for adults.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And kids too. But
yeah, that's what it is. It's Thank you. What's the most popular model?
Actually,
you have?
the Mini Super, my version of a Mini Simmons, I put a swallowtail on mine and do a couple other little things, but that's a very popular model. Longboards are popular. The ham and cheese is like a blunt nose riding longboard that's been popular. Good for small, like long, kind of more point waves. The Cochon is like a pig style longboard that's good for beach breaks. Making some step ups, some quads, and been messing around with twinsers this year. I got a lot of requests for twinsers in the last few years, so I started experimenting with them and having a lot of fun with those. And yeah, my goal personally is to have like a broad range of designs from traditional longboards to high performance, shortboard-ish kind of things in the more alternative realm. But I want to, serve the whole scope of surfing from small weak waves to big powerful tubes and everything in between. I feel like that's what keeps it fresh and interesting for me, is to have constant new design challenges and work with a variety of skill sets from really beginning surfers to experts and so on. So I really try and keep an open mind around design and embrace any kind of challenges. I love customs. Trying to meet somebody where they're at in their surfing life is a lot of fun for me. And the best is, you get aboard to somebody and you get the text after. It's like, oh my God, I got the best tube or I got the best turn. That's like just music to my ears. So that's always what I'm trying to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What's your, I guess, backyard look like? The ways you're surfing and then the way you test all your boards?
Yeah,
what
so
like?
I live in Central California, so there's a lot of waves, but they're all pretty fickle. So everything kind of has its own day when it's good. So I kind of range around about an hour in either direction from my house, and depending on what the day is calling for, that's what I'll go for. But
mostly beach breaks?
A lot of beach breaks, some reefs. About an hour and a bit south, there's some point breaks in Santa Barbara zone. Which are great for testing boards because it's actually a longer wave. But yeah, in San Luis Obispo County, it's mostly beach breaks and a couple reefs here and there. Yeah.
Did you notice any difference when you test the board in the reef break and then you go to the beach break and it's just opposite or something like that?
I would just say that reefs are better for testing boards because they break in a more predictable way. So you're not reacting as much as if you really know a spot very well, then you can kind of know, oh, there's the fast section, there's the slow section, and you can understand how a board is moving through each section of the wave better. And you're not having to react as quickly in the moment. You can anticipate what the wave's going to do, so then you can focus on, okay, now what's the board doing? So in particular for testing boards, I love going down to Santa Barbara where there's a long point and you can really surf the wave for quite a while, adjust your feet and kind of have time to collect yourself and plan a little bit what your next maneuvers are going to be, or some of the reefs around home that I know very well. That's always a good spot to test boards, but the beaches can be fun too. It's all good,
I'm just asking in terms of translating that. If you test most of the stuff in the reef break and then I'm the one who orders like from the East Coast and I serve beach breaks, mostly closeouts, how will it affect me? I mean, will I lose something when I order something and I see, like this board, yara yara yara, it works like here, you can do this and that.
I see what you're saying.
What do you think about that theory? Or
yeah, I mean, like for instance, this morning we were surfing the Rockaways, right? And that reminds me a lot of a spot at home called near Cayucas. And so there's a similar setup, and it was helpful for me to paddle out here and understand what the East Coast is doing and kind of translate it to like, oh, that reminds me of this or that wave at home. But as far as like if you test a board in a reef versus if you test in a beach break, I think it's important to surf a lot of waves and understand what the waves are doing, but I think the benefit to a reef is that you can focus on a particular part of the wave. Like, beach breaks will stand up and they'll get hollow, or they'll be mushy depending on the tide and the beach break and the spot and so on. Or a reef wave, if you can know which part of the wave is going to stand up and which part is going to be fat, and you can anticipate that a little bit more. And so that translates to like, oh, if the beach break is hollow this day, it's like that particular part of the reef is the hollow part, right? And waves they're all unique and they all have their own little personalities, but there are some similarities in terms of shape and speed and that kind of thing, and they all do relate to each other pretty well. Like I've had opportunities to travel all through Central America and Mexico, and you know, it's like obviously everywhere you go the waves are different, but the more waves you surf, the more you can kind of relate them to one another, if that makes sense. So
is there like one ingredient, or that's why you guys have to custom for certain areas the board, I guess?
yeah, exactly. If you know, like, oh, for instance, East Coast, it's a lot of short period, smaller wind swell kind of waves. And so, for instance, in certain times of the year, Central California where I live, we get a lot of wind swell. So it relates a lot more to our spring, for instance, than in fall when you get a lot of long period ground swell. But if you're kind of tuned into what conditions are happening in what place, you can translate those things, I think. Yeah.
All right, thank you for explaining that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Thoroughly. So we gonna go over the Mini Super
Yes.
Mini.
Yeah, Mini Super.
Mini Super.
In Mexico, the convenience stores are called Mini Supers. And so I always thought that was a fun name for a Mini Simmons design. It's the
So
Super.
what would be the difference from your original shape that you would do for California if you compare it to the East Coast waves? What would be change in
So
the shape?
yeah, I think I'd want to make it a touch more narrow and split the single concave into a double concave, which will help it go rail to rail a little bit better. It seems like the waves here are a little bit quicker, and not quicker necessarily, but softer and dumpier at the same time, if that makes sense. And so I think having a little bit quicker rail to rail when you're not drawing quite as long of a line, I think the double concave, splitting that single into a double will assist in that. And I think having a little bit narrower, just a touch, will actually help it go rail to rail as well and be just a little bit easier in like a little bit shorter of a wave to sneak in a maneuver, because maybe you'll get 2 turns instead of just 1, you know?
I like it.
Yeah.
I like this idea.
Yeah.
And then what's the biggest difference comparing to the Mini Simmons that you surfed this morning? We surfed together. I mean.
Yeah, that one's a trip. It's like the original Joe Bodges Hydrodynamica Mini Simmons, right? And that's amazing that Pilgrim has that just in their surfboard library.
Yeah.
It's a really cool opportunity to surf that board. A lot of really interesting folks, including like Tom Curran, Stephanie Gilmore, and other people have surfed that board. So that thing definitely has some mana to it. I think that board was a little bit shorter and wider than I'd like to make you. It was really, really fun, and it had a lot of spiciness to it. But I think personally, I was moving my back foot quite a bit in order to turn it one way or another. And I think trying to orient your design towards having your feet a little bit more planted would be helpful. And maybe a touch longer too, in order to compensate for the less width. Keep the similar amount of foam, but lengthen it just a touch. Yeah.
How about the control? You think that would be a little bit better control than the one that I surfed today, the original one?
I think so, yeah. So I'd like to put fin boxes in yours so you can switch out the fins and kind of play with that, and that'll definitely change the behavior of the board quite a bit. Also, splitting that single concave into a double will be a bit more controlled feeling. The Joe Bodges one had these classic Simmons super shallow half moon keels. Those are really interesting fins. They're glassed on. I don't know of a company that actually makes those as for plugs. So by switching the fins to like even a traditional keel that's more swept back and straighter on the back, it's not going to feel as loose. It'll just feel more drivey and locked in. Also by adding a swallowtail as opposed to that chop tail, by bringing in that swallow, it actually holds water better through turns, so it's not going to want to break out and release as much as that one. That one's really loose.
Yeah. Oh, that was. I mean, after I caught one first wave, and I was just like flying down the line. I feel like I'm just on the clouds, like on the top of the wave, and it's just so much speed, no resistance.
Yes.
And I was like, all right, let's turn, and then I turn, and the board is just like straight up skidding. Like,
you lost the fins immediately.
To not predict sometimes something.
Sure.
That kind of keeps you stocks and then
Absolutely.
and then it comes with a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so yeah, by creating that swallowtail and using a different type of fin, you're gonna definitely have a more controlled feeling. Ideally, it will be in that middle ground. It won't feel, it definitely won't feel tight like a thruster would, but yeah, it will be a little more difficult to break the fin out and actually slide the tail than that one is.
But
that one's pretty extreme.
It would still have the same paddle power.
Oh yes.
As the original Mini Simmons.
Yeah. It's a flat. We're going to keep it really flat rockered, and you make up for the lack of rocker by adding a little bit of belly in the nose, and that kind of sneaks in some rocker and some cutting through the chop for you. But flatter rocker and easy paddling and lots of foam. Yeah, we're going to basically just skin the blank and then do the bottom contours, because this blank is actually fairly thin for a fish blank. It's a thinner one, so we'll just barely take off just the crust of this and keep most of this foam so it catches hopefully everything. Yeah.
So yeah, because I think it's anyone who tries the Mini Simmons in general, the first session, they always surprised how easy it catches waves. It's like small, as long as you have a little bit of face, the stiffness, and it just, for some reason, I guess that's why it's magical. It's just going.
I mean, the Simmons theory comes from Bob Simmons, the La Jolla shaper from San Diego, who was a shaper in the 50s, right? And his big influence was this book, it's on naval architecture by Lindsay Lord, I think was the author. And what he found in that book was that there's a planing coefficient of length to width that's the most efficient planing surface through water, meaning it moves the most easily through water, right? And so essentially, if you boil it down, by making it really wide and really short, that's the most efficient surface to move through water. So it's not only just the foam, but it's also that length to width ratio that makes it really easy paddling and helps you catch a lot of waves. That's like one of the things that people miss in terms of, people get really hung up on volume. It's not only just volume, it's things like that. The aspect ratio of length to width makes a huge difference in terms of paddling. Rocker makes a huge difference in terms of paddling. The belly, how much belly there is, or how flat a bottom is, or if there's a concave, all that kind of stuff really affects how the board paddles. And Mini Simmons in particular is a great paddler, mainly due to the foam distribution and the aspect ratio, the length to width ratio of the shape.
I guess you should not go way bigger than you need.
Once you go longer, you have to widen it, but then if you widen it too much, then you start getting a crazy wide board that's out of control. So the whole art of shaping is in balancing all those elements together and hopefully not having too much of one thing or too little of another.
Then it turns into boats.
Exactly.
And it just maybe you should just get the foam blank and then surf straight.
Like Ryan Birch. Exactly. Yeah.
Great. So could you please walk me through the whole process of ordering custom board through you? How does it work?
Yeah, essentially we would, someone calls me up and says, I surf these, they'd say I want a custom board. I would ask them, what's your height? What's your weight? How many years have you been surfing for? What spots are you surfing most? What boards do you love? Have you ever had any boards that you really hated? All those things kind of factor in, and then if someone sends me like a photo or video of themselves surfing, I can kind of get an idea of their skill level that way as well. That's a lot less common, but I really like to just chat on the phone with people, because then you can get a sense of a skill set that way as well. And then it's a matter of really where they're surfing and where they envision this board, the board that they're ordering for me to be surfed. And luckily over the years I've got to go to a lot of places, so even if I haven't been to that particular spot, I've at least probably seen a photo or two and kind of understand what the vibe is. And that's pretty much it. And then we're off to the races, and then it's the fun arty stuff like what color do you want it and that kind of thing. But yeah, it really makes a difference. And then the other thing that I forgot to say is how often are you surfing? That kind of indicates how fit somebody is and how much I should really help them with the paddling aspect. So yeah, and it's just a conversation, and ideally in theory they would have been somewhat familiar with some of the shapes that I offer, right? And they'll say, I was thinking this, but if they tell me, for instance, like, oh, you know, I was really thinking about your MLP model, but I'm surfing on the East Coast and I'm mostly surfing the smaller days, I would be like, you know, I don't know about that. I think I would point them towards the Mini Super. If you're orienting it towards small waves, that's kind of where I'm at, what I would like to surf. And really what I've done is built all my recommendations and models around things that I myself really enjoy surfing. So hopefully, you know, the thing that I'm enjoying is going to translate to the customer, and more often than not it does. That's pretty much it, yeah.
Great. I guess, you know, I sent you a couple of videos with surfing. So what do you think would suit me? What I guess size and dimensions will work for me? What do you think?
Right, we were
from the top of your head. What do you have?
Yeah, you're. I think you said you were around 175, and we're about the same height or so. I'm like 5'9".
Yeah, 5'9".
Okay, and I'm 180. I got a couple pounds on you. So
it changes.
Yeah,
so
of course.
In the summer, I might go down to 165, 155 sometimes if I push it.
Yeah.
So 155, that's the lowest I can go.
Yeah.
If I will just like cut down sugar, sweets.
Yeah.
Eat healthier.
Sure.
But I think it's probably an average between 165, 175. That's probably the range.
Okay. And then, yeah, looking at the videos that you sent me, it was really small, weak surf for most of the videos that you sent me. It was around waist high, maybe, on a good day, you know.
East Coast, waist high, and
yeah. So with that in mind, I think just a touch more length might be helpful, just to give a little bit extra glide and foam. So maybe somewhere around 5'3", 5'4" could work.
5'4".
Yeah, and keeping it 21 and a half or so wide, not super wide like the one that we surfed today. I think we'll keep it feeling a little bit more controlled and a little bit more responsive for you. Yeah.
So 21 and a half, most likely.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Thickness, how about thickness?
Yeah, so that's the thing. We got to just skin this thing because it's only like 2 3/4 thick to begin with. So if I can get it down to just 2 5/8, I think that would be good, just to keep as much foam as possible in it.
And I guess in terms of the volume, you probably won't know what.
I have no idea what the volume is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the most common question I used to ask people.
Yes.
And I'm getting to from DMs from my followers, like, hey, I mean, what's the volume of that thing?
Right.
Now I'm getting more into this subject, you know, getting some hand-shaped boards.
Yes, and that's why I have no idea what the volume is. It's because I'm hand-shaping only. I've never used the CNC machine. I'm not a big company. I'm just one guy. I'm literally in my backyard at home. I built myself a bay there. I'm not the last surfboards. I'm not, you know, Al Merrick. I'm just a dude in his backyard, doing them one at a time by hand. And so, for me, that's the fun of it. I really enjoy shaping by hand. It's a constant challenge for me to see, you know, how accurate, how fast, and how creative I can get just with my hands and the planer. I enjoy that process, so I want to keep doing that. But the one drawback is that you don't have a good, accurate way of measuring volume unless I built like a dunk tank in my backyard to displace each board individually and measure the displaced volume. That would be the only way to actually measure the volume of a hand shape, because how you foil the rails, how you foil the nose and tail, it varies from board to board and from customer to customer depending on what each customer is after. And so all that, anytime you remove foam, you're changing the volume. And so it's easy to do when you have a computer designed shape and you can just lightly scrub it to finish it. Then you know that when it's routed out by the CNC machine, pretty precisely what the volume is. You're not really removing much foam in that finishing process on those boards. But for a hand-shaped board, you're using a power planer and you're doing every little bit of it by hand, and so it's very difficult to accurately say what the volume is.
Interesting. This is going to be my first board that I will never know the volume unless I do unless I do that experiment.
Sure,
I mean,
you got to build a dunk tank.
Archimedes.
Yeah, in your spare time.
Your spare time. That'll be very interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, to try it.
It would be.
I'll need to
You got to
find-
let me know. You got to tell me what you find out.
I'll be challenged to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because since I've started surfing, I always knew the volume of my board, every
Sure.
board. So,
Yeah. I think it was I'll just say a brilliant marketing tactic by the people using CNC machines to include that metric and to be fair, it is important to have enough foam to paddle. And a lot of times, I grew up in the 90s where the boards were anemic. They were, incredibly thin, incredibly rockered out, difficult to paddle, not very fun to learn on at all. And so having sufficient volume is important, but having the precise measurement of liters is less important in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see after we.
Yeah, sure.
You shape
You
glass. We'll take it out and see how it will.
If
will that
you get
work.
waves.
If I get any wave.
Yeah.
Not sure. I hope I will get waves. Really hope. Yeah. Well, that was really great.
Cool.
Explanation about the whole process. So I kind of want to ask you to try to take 1 inch of this blank, but I don't want to hurt this blank and make mistake. And I'll just let you do all the work.
Okay. I'm a little, just because of this particular blank, I'm a little nervous to have you use the planer, because if you gouge it, if it tips and creates a gouge, then in order to take that gouge out, I would need to plane it down more, and then you're losing your volume, which would help you, catch waves. So
The wave count. I will lose the wave count.
lose the wave count. So I don't want to. This one is just a tighter tolerance for that.
That's great. I'll just enjoy just watching you doing that.
Fair enough.
And I will not be in foam dust.
Right. Yeah. You're gonna say you wore all black, so that was a brave move coming in here, actually. Yeah.
I thought about it, but
Yeah.
then I don't know. Maybe it won't be that bad, but
Yeah.
well,
Well, luckily I do have the vacuum hooked up, so it shouldn't be too terrible.
right.
It will be loud though, so you have to prepare for that, I guess.
And after you work with the planner, what's next after this?
So what I do first is I plane it out. Well, first I'll cut it to length, because this is longer than you'll need. And then I skin the blank, and then I draw your template on it and cut out the template. And then I'll add contours both on the deck side and on the bottom. And clean all that up, get it as clean as possible, add the rail shape, and the very last thing I do is add the tail concave. And then mark fins and sign it. That's it.
Okay, so I should tell you now what kind of fins I would like to use, or
Were you thinking
fin
a
boxes.
twin fin?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I normally mark it for keel fins.
Keel fins.
Yes, so I like the True Aim's Hobie keel on this particular shape. Personally, do you have that fin by chance, or no?
I have more keels. I think. What I have a retro keel,
Okay.
an FCS2.
Okay. Oh, so you want FCS boxes?
FCS2, I think.
Okay,
Probably that will be easier for me to swap out.
that's good to know.
Because I have MR set too. I
Yeah.
don't know if that will work with the Mini Simmons.
The only thing I would say is on keel sets in box fins, the trailing edge of the keel varies depending on the design. So I know, for instance, on the Hobie keel, I mark my fins at 7 3/4 because that design overhangs by about about 2 inches or so, and so that puts the fin at the right spot for that box. But on an FCS2 and the what keel did you say? The retro keel?
Well, MR is very more upright. I guess it's not gonna even work. Probably.
No, you can ride it with uprights. Actually, I have friends who they prefer the T. I usually use the True Aim, so the TA twin is a more upright, shorter base, not keel style fin, more of like an MR twin. And so a lot of people prefer that fin on this particular board. I'm just, you know, it depends on what you like. That'll create a more spicy kind of reactive, a little bit more tighter arcing turn, be able to hit the lip a little bit more. The keel fin wants to draw out its turns a little bit more, and it feels more drivey. It'll actually get you down the line a little quicker, but it'll be less top to bottom. So it really depends on what you enjoy.
May help when it gets a little bit bigger, slightly.
Yeah, that could help for sure,
help.
because it's a deeper depth as well, right? So you're going to be less likely to slide out. You'll have a little bit more hold, and it will go a little bit more top to bottom.
Question.
Yeah.
What do you think about the trailer fin? Adding like a little...
I
fin
personally
box?
have never done a trailer fin on a Mini Super before. You could be the first. You could tell me how it goes.
Let's do it.
Okay.
If it's possible. I mean, it's not, even if I don't use it, it's not going to affect any performance on the board.
Sure, we can just
Right?
pop one in there.
Yeah, just in case.
A box,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting, because I only seen twins, like Mini Simmons or other fishes.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone would do that, and believe it or not, I had one Mini Simmons 5.1. It was like a very heavy glass from Token surfboards. They used to shape here in Brooklyn, I believe, back in the days. And it had like 5 fin boxes.
Okay.
But I never used the as a thruster or as a because I think the fin box was a little off, so I couldn't put anything in.
I see.
So, but that would be actually interesting to have.
Well, I love the experimental attitude. That's like the best thing about ordering a custom board, is that you have the freedom to do whatever your imagination leads you to. So, yeah, that'll be a fun experiment.
Let's
We'll
put
have
a
to
little knob sometimes and see what feels.
what it does.
Maybe I can push it to bigger waves.
maybe. I like it. Yeah, that's fun.
Great.
Yeah.
Is this your first custom surfboard?
First custom.
First custom.
It's my first custom. I mean,
Well, that's an honor.
I ordered before
Yeah.
on CI,
Okay.
but that was like based on the stock dimensions.
Right.
And it was CI. It's not hand-shaped board
Right.
very much. So this is legit hand-shaped custom surfboard.
That's awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah, and I'm adding like extra fin box, which wasn't supposed to be there, but we'll see how it will work.
Yeah, and we're also changing the overall dimensions for you and splitting that single to a double. So yeah, this is fun. This is
So
a
most
lot
people-
of adjustments.
So most people in California, they would go single.
Yeah, it depends where they're riding, right?
Uh-huh.
For instance, like, so if they're riding a lot of shorter beach break type waves, it might be a good idea to split to a double as well. But a lot of people are riding like, you know, Rincon, Malibu, long point waves, and those single concaves single concaves work great in beach breaks too. It's just an idea to loosen it up for you. It's a, I guess you'd call it like a little bit of intuition. I think it'll go slightly better for you this way. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, how do you like the channels? Do you like to ride the channels, or it's not?
Yeah, you know, my favorite sessions on channeled boards have been on really good waves in point breaks.
Point breaks.
And so in more average surf, I've found them to feel a little tracky and sticky on rail in particular. When you initiate the turn, it really wants to drive through that turn and stay on rail. And that feels great when you have a long, powerful wall to work with. But when it's a really quick, like wonky, weird wave, if it's like quick for a second and then it gets fat and then it gets quick again, sometimes I find the channels to be a little bit sticky feeling for me. So I don't necessarily recommend them unless you're going to maybe a higher quality wave.
Oh, wow, stoked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess that's it. We'll go from here. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
taking the time to talk about this whole process.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Allowing to order to put one into your batch.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to. It's my pleasure. It's what I like to do best. More than anything else, I like doing customs.
Awesome, sweet.
So.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support. And if you have any questions about ordering custom actually check out your
Yeah,
website,
so-
how they can find you.
Yeah. I'm on Instagram. It's Shea Somma, SHEA SOMMA, and then my website is sommaspecialdesigns.com, SOMMA specialdesigns.com.
Yeah, check it out, guys. They have so many nice boards out there. Also, there's one at Pilgrim. Or I don't know. One
Yeah, and I've got stock boards at Mollusk
Almost.
and Daydream Surf Shop, Central Coast Surfboards, and a few others as well. So check the site and check
All right.
Instagram.
Cool. Yeah,
Yep.
and I'll see you soon.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Yep.